Before Mike Tyson, many wrote Evander Holyfield off as a blown-up cruiserweight, washed up, a heavy underdog destined for damage. 2 years earlier, in 1994, he had retired after a heart scare. Yet he returned, rebuilt, and on November 9, 1996, at the MGM Grand, he walked into the ring with calm defiance and changed heavyweight history. This is the story of how intelligence, grit, and inside craft overturned the sport's most intimidating aura. Before we get started, remember to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the most exciting stories about boxing's legendary fighters. By 1996, few believed Evander Holyfield still belonged among the elite. He'd lost to Riddick Bowe in a brutal trilogy, then to Michael Moore in 1994, a defeat followed by a shocking medical diagnosis of a stiff heart. Doctors advised him to retire, and for a time he did. When Holyfield returned in 1995, critics said his reflexes had dulled, his body worn down from wars that drained even younger men. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson was seen as boxing's resurrected monster. After prison, he blasted through opponents like Frank Bruno and Bruce Seldon, reclaiming the WBC and WBA titles in destructive fashion. The public saw the upcoming matchup as a mismatch, more execution than competition. Odds makers listed Holyfield as a 5-to-1 underdog. Some claimed even higher. Reporters mocked the fight poster, calling him the real deal. To many, it was the last payday of a fading veteran against the most feared heavyweight alive. But inside Holyfield's quiet determination lay a different plan. He wasn't preparing to survive Tyson. He was preparing to break him down. Every session focused on pressure, balance, and short-range control. By the time he walked into Las Vegas that November, the world expected a victim. What they got instead was the shock of a lifetime. November 9, 1996. The MGM Grand Garden Arena was a cauldron of noise. Mike Tyson marched in first, muscles carved from stone, his black trunks and blank stare radiating menace. Holyfield followed with a look of serenity that felt almost out of place. The crowd of over 16,000 saw a lamb walking toward a lion. What they didn't know was that this lamb had studied the lion's rhythm better than anyone before him. From the opening bell, Tyson charged like he always did, in explosive, violent, swinging hooks meant to end the fight early. Holyfield didn't backpedal. He met Tyson head-on, taking the punches on his gloves and shoulders, tying him up and pushing him backward. Every time Tyson tried to create chaos, Holyfield calmly clinched, leaned, and made him reset. It wasn't running, it was control. He absorbed the storm, then fired back with short, accurate counters that stunned Tyson's rhythm. By the third round, the shock was visible. Tyson's attacks slowed just a fraction, and Holyfield began to time him perfectly. He mixed uppercuts in the clinch, snapped short hooks inside, and bullied the supposed bully. Tyson, who had always relied on intimidation, found himself pushed backward by a man everyone had said was finished. When the bell rang, the crowd buzzed with disbelief. Holyfield wasn't surviving, he was winning. Then came the sixth round, the turning point of the entire night. Tyson launched a wild assault, trying to break Holyfield's defense. But as he lunged in, Holyfield countered with a left hook, followed by a right hand that sent Tyson stumbling, then falling. For the first time since the Buster Douglas fight, the indestructible Iron Mike was on the canvas. The arena gasped. Tyson rose, furious and embarrassed, but his aura had cracked. Holyfield didn't chase the knockout. He kept breaking Tyson down. Every time Tyson tried to step inside, Holyfield met him with a shoulder, an elbow, or a counter. In the clinches, he whispered to Tyson, psychological warfare of his own. Calm, composed, unshaken. Tyson, so used to opponents freezing, began to unravel. His combinations got shorter, his breathing heavier. Holyfield's pace didn't slow. By round 9, Tyson's right eye was swollen, his movement stiff. Holyfield's shots, especially the left hook and short uppercut, landed clean. Tyson's punches no longer had the same snap. He was fighting on instinct alone. The man who once destroyed giants now looked smaller, trapped in a fight he couldn't control. Holyfield kept his rhythm, bouncing slightly on his toes, dipping his head just enough to slip each wild hook. The veteran who was supposed to be washed up was now outsmarting and outfighting the most feared puncher alive. In round 10, the punishment mounted. Holyfield landed combinations in bursts, 3, 4, even 5 clean punches at a time, while Tyson swung wide and missed. The champion's legs buckled as Holyfield pushed him into the ropes, firing body shots that echoed through the arena. Tyson's corner shouted for urgency, but the momentum was gone. Holyfield looked stronger, fresher, almost joyful in his focus. Then, early in round 11, Holyfield closed the show. He trapped Tyson along the ropes, hammered him with a barrage of punches, hooks, uppercuts, right hands. Tyson couldn't respond. Referee Mitch Halpern stepped in at 37 seconds of the round, waving it off. TKO. The impossible had happened. Evander Holyfield, the man who was supposedly finished, had just stopped Mike Tyson. The eruption inside the MGM Grand was immediate. Reporters dropped their notes. Commentators screamed. Some fans stood in stunned silence. It wasn't just a victory, it was a rewriting of narrative. Holyfield didn't win through luck or one lucky punch. He had outthought, outfought, and outlasted Tyson. When the scorecards were revealed, Holyfield had led decisively, 96-92 on all 3 judges' cards before the stoppage. The CompuBox numbers confirmed what eyes had already seen. Holyfield had landed over 100 power shots, more than any opponent ever against Tyson. The washed-up veteran had systematically dismantled the sport's most feared man. As Holyfield raised his hands, he didn't scream or dance. He bowed his head, smiled, and thanked God. The ring was chaos. Journalists, trainers, cameras, and fans flooding around him. But at the center of it stood a fighter who had proven that intelligence and belief could still conquer raw power. That night changed more than boxing records. It shattered myths. Tyson was human. Holyfield was not the underdog he'd been painted to be. He was the master of patience, the professor of controlled aggression. He showed that heart isn't just about endurance. It's about the courage to execute a plan when the world thinks you're done. From that night forward, the real deal wasn't a marketing slogan. It was the truth. The rematch came on June 28, 1997, again at the MGM Grand. Only 7 months had passed, but the atmosphere was even more charged. Tyson promised revenge, swearing to knock Holyfield out early. Holyfield, calm as always, entered the ring in white and gold, looking every bit like the man who had nothing left to prove. The world expected another war. What it got was something far stranger, one of the most infamous nights in sports history. From the first bell, the pattern looked familiar. Holyfield pressed forward behind his jab and short hooks, smothering Tyson's offense. Tyson tried to swing big, but Holyfield's balance and inside control neutralized him again. By the end of the second round, Tyson was already frustrated. He had landed a few solid shots, but Holyfield's counters and clinch work drained his energy. The defending champion had quietly taken both rounds on most scorecards. Then came round 3. Tyson charged with desperation, trying to impose his will. In a clinch, he suddenly lunged and bit Holyfield's right ear. Holyfield jumped back in shock, blood visible on his shoulder. Referee Mills Lane stopped the action, deducted 2 points, and warned Tyson. But the chaos didn't end there. Moments later, in another tie-up, Tyson bit Holyfield's other ear. This time, Lane had seen enough. He disqualified Tyson at the end of the round. The fight ended not with punches, but disbelief. Security flooded the ring as fans threw debris. Tyson's license was revoked, and he was fined $3 million. Amid the madness, Holyfield remained composed, offering only a quiet prayer while the crowd erupted. In the storm's center, his calm dignity stood out. Even in victory marred by controversy, Evander Holyfield showed what true control looked like, physically, mentally, and morally. Across both Tyson bouts, one truth became undeniable. Evander Holyfield was a master of composure and calculated aggression. He didn't rely on speed or brute strength. He dismantled chaos with rhythm and control. Every clinch, every pivot, every exchange was deliberate. He turned Tyson's fury against him, proving that pressure means nothing without patience. Holyfield's stamina in the later rounds, his precision at close range, and his ability to think clearly under fire made the difference. Where others panicked, he planned. Where others broke, he adapted. Those nights in Las Vegas redefined his legacy, not as the underdog who survived Tyson, but as the tactician who outsmarted him. In doing so, Holyfield reminded the boxing world that greatness isn't always loud. It's often calm, relentless, and unshakably disciplined. Evander Holyfield's career record stands at 44 wins, 10 losses, and 2 draws, with 29 victories coming by knockout. Numbers alone, though, don't capture his greatness. He is the only boxer in history to become a 4-time heavyweight world champion, a feat unmatched even by Muhammad Ali. Before conquering the big men, Holyfield had already ruled the cruiserweight division, becoming the undisputed champion there, before moving up to heavyweight and repeating the climb. His resume reads like a tour through modern heavyweight history. From the mid-1980s through the early 2000s, he faced nearly every major champion and contender of his era. He fought wars, not exhibitions, and never avoided danger. In 2017, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, an acknowledgement of not only his victories, but also his resilience. Holyfield wasn't built on hype or theatrics. His legacy was carved from toughness, strategy, and an unbreakable will to compete until the final bell. Long before the Tyson saga, Evander Holyfield had already built a resume that demanded respect. In October 1990, he faced Buster Douglas, the man who had shocked the world by knocking out Mike Tyson earlier that same year. Many expected Douglas to continue his dominance, but Holyfield needed only 3 rounds to end it. A crisp right hand sent Douglas crashing to the canvas, and with that knockout, Holyfield became the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. His first defense came against a living legend, George Foreman, 42 years old but still punching like a wrecking ball. Most believed Holyfield would simply outbox the aging giant, yet the fight turned into a 12-round war. Foreman absorbed everything Holyfield threw and kept coming. Holyfield answered back with combinations, showing discipline and conditioning that defined his prime. When the final bell rang, he had won by unanimous decision, earning respect for both men. These victories showcased Holyfield's versatility. Against Douglas, he displayed explosive precision. Against Foreman, he proved endurance and courage. 2 very different challenges met with 2 flawless answers. Together, they cemented his status not as a one-night miracle, but as a complete champion who could conquer power, size, and expectation with equal calm. Holyfield's career was defined by facing men bigger, younger, or more dangerous, and beating them anyway. In 1992, he outboxed former champion Larry Holmes over 12 disciplined rounds, neutralizing the veteran's jab with sharp timing. 3 years earlier, his 10th round stoppage of Michael Dokes had been a brutal slugfest, remembered as one of the greatest heavyweight fights of the decade. Before that, in 1986, he went 15 grueling rounds with Dwight Muhammad Qawi at cruiserweight, a non-stop war of will and endurance that forged his championship heart. In 1995, when many thought his best days were over, Holyfield took on the granite-chinned Ray Mercer. Mercer had never been hurt, but Holyfield's pressure and conditioning wore him down, earning a unanimous decision. These were not easy nights. They were survival tests fought on even terms with the best of their eras. Through them all, Holyfield's consistency stood out. He didn't rely on intimidation or luck. He relied on will, preparation, and a deep understanding of what it meant to fight to the edge and not break. Holyfield's legacy wasn't measured only in belts. His earnings from the Tyson fights made him one of the world's highest-paid athletes in 1997, but he used that success to build and give back. He launched Real Deal Sports and Entertainment, creating opportunities for younger fighters while enforcing strong medical and safety standards. He also donated over $1 million to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Atlanta, the same program that shaped his childhood and kept him off the streets. To Holyfield, success meant stewardship. Whether promoting bouts or funding youth programs, he believed the measure of a champion wasn't how much he kept, but how much he gave. Evander Holyfield became more than a 4-time heavyweight champion. He became a symbol of perseverance. His calm under fire, his willingness to stand toe-to-toe with danger, and his refusal to quit inspired generations of boxers who followed. Fans didn't just admire his titles, they admired his heart. Culturally, the Tyson Wars turned him into a global icon, but time revealed something deeper, a man who represented discipline and faith over chaos. His fights were lessons in composure, his career a reminder that greatness comes from purpose, not noise. Holyfield's influence echoes through modern heavyweights who study his inside control and mental strength. Decades later, his name still commands respect because it stands for something enduring: honor, resilience, and belief in doing things the right way, even when the world expects you to fall. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out more similar videos on the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you.